Autoline After Hours is brought to you by Bridgestone Tires, your journey, our passion. Dodge. And by Henkel, excellence is our passion.
This is Autoline After Hours with John McElroy, episode 307 for October 23 of 2015, Roush Performance. There's an app for that. Watch Autoline After Hours live at Autoline.tv every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 12 p.m. Pacific or 19 hours GMT. You can subscribe to this podcast for free by searching for Autoline in iTunes, Stitcher, or YouTube. Hey, I remember you. You're Gary Vasilash.
Yeah, you vaguely remember. We haven't seen you for a couple of weeks.
No, what? I've been out of town, man, and doing other stuff, so it's great to be back, let me tell you. Yeah.
Good, yeah. We had some good shows.
I know you did. I know you did, yes. So we should let everybody know we got Dave Sullivan here from AutoPacific.
Thank you.
Always good to have you here.
Thank you.
What's new in the world?
Oh, just getting ready for auto show season, gearing up here in the U.S. and everything. L.A. auto show chatter starting to grow, and everybody's getting pretty excited. So I guess that's a sign that winter's coming. But
got to take the good with the bad, right?
But yeah, it's busy season, but I think it's a good busy. It's going to be exciting. Even LA is going to be pretty big this year, so I'm pretty excited.
30 new cars or something that they're saying?
50, I think, is what they were saying.
Yeah.
Well, they count everything that we
consider
a new.
And it might be have already been
got
shown.
New lug nuts on that one.
Yeah, it might be shown already in Europe or something.
Yeah.
First time it'll be shown here or something like that. So, but yeah, it'll be still a pretty big show compared to what it was a decade ago.
Sure.
Well, cool. Glad to have you here, and we should let everybody know we've got Don Manfredi here from Roush Performance. And Don, great having you here.
I'm really happy to be here today.
And we'll mention, too, you're the Vice President of Marketing.
Yes.
We've got another one of your compatriots here, and we're going to get to him in a minute here
He's
as well.
got the exciting stuff.
Yeah, he does. But you brought a Stage 3 Roush Mustang to the studio.
Absolutely.
And for those who don't know, just give us the quick thumbnail. What distinguishes a Roush Stage 3 Mustang from other stages and from other Mustangs?
So we offer 4 variants of the Roush Mustang. We go from the RS all the way up to the Stage 1, 2, and 3. The Stage 3 is really our premier package. So it's got all of our body modifications, it's got all of our handling modifications, but most importantly, and what people really like, is it's got our supercharger technology. So that guy is 670 horsepower and 545 foot-pounds of torque. For a 3,900-pound chassis, that's a lot of power-to-weight ratio there.
So you guys take a Mustang from the factory and then put it in your factory?
Correct. So we're on Ford's bailment program. So we essentially give them a commitment at the beginning of the year for stock chassis, and then we sell through the Ford dealer network. We have authorized Ford dealers that are Roush certified. Customer owns a vehicle, orders a vehicle, we take it into our facility, and we modify it based on the order, whether it's an RS, a Stage 1, 2, or 3. So all of that gets done at our manufacturing operations in Plymouth, Michigan.
And I was surprised to learn when the car actually gets sold, it's no longer a Ford, it's a Roush Mustang.
Yes, absolutely. And that's a distinction that a lot of people don't get about the Roush Mustang compared to some of the other aftermarket players. We are actually the manufacturer of record for that vehicle, which means we own the warranty, we own the emissions certification, we own it lock, stock, and barrel.
I've never heard of that. Emissions and warranty. Do any other tuners do that?
None that we're aware of.
Yeah, I've never heard of it.
So if you own the whole warranty, when it gets shipped to your facility in Plymouth, what's in it? Is it...
it's a completely stock GT.
Okay.
So we own the powertrain warranty.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a stock GT. We go ahead and take off some of the components that we're going to replace. So for 2015 and 16, we did a new fascia, we did a new blackout panel, we added some body modification with side scoops, hood scoop. Those all get done at our factory. We also do suspension, we do active exhaust, which Justin's going to get a chance to show you guys later. And then we do the engine work there as well. All of those components that came from the factory get taken off at Roush.
So how many, you said Roush certified Ford dealers?
Yes.
How many are there and where are they? I mean, we have...
So they're all across the country, and we actually have, we have some global as well. We've got some in Saudi Arabia and we're starting to get into China as well. But we've got active about 200, but if you went into our books, you'd see about 400 people that have sold a Roush Mustang or Roush F-150 in the last 20 years. It's actually, we started in 95, so it's our 20-year anniversary for this. So about 200 really that are really active today nationwide.
I'm still knocked out about how much you guys do in-house, and I learned earlier that you actually assemble your own superchargers.
Yes, we do. So once you get into Roush, you have to understand what building is done, what's done where and what building. So everything's numbered. So building 50 is where we assemble our superchargers. We use Eaton technology as part of it, and then we assemble them in a facility there, then ship them over the long haul from Middle Belt and Plymouth Road all the way over to
so this is from Livonia to Plymouth.
Yeah, basically.
Just a few miles.
Yeah, so there's no problem with currency fluctuation or anything like that, and no tariffs or anything that we have to deal with. But we do a lot of this in-house. The fascias, all of the parts that you see that are on this vehicle, we do in-house at a different building, of course. A lot of capability at Roush, absolutely.
If I were to go out and buy one of these things, what would it cost?
So we publish an MSRP price for this. This vehicle that we have on display today, I believe it was $69 and some change.
$69,000.
$69,000, yeah.
On top of buying the car?
No, total. So chassis plus ours.
That's a pretty good price.
Well, and the thing is, when you drive one, you'll say, oh my gosh, this is a steal. Because this vehicle, we were talking about this earlier, this is the best chassis we've ever started with. The handling's amazing. You get seat time in this thing, and then you get pushed back in your seat with that supercharger, and then you hit a corner and you go, oh my gosh, it just hugs. Beautiful vehicle. It's a steal at $69,000.
Man, so how many will get sold in a year?
A couple thousand usually.
Really? That's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, for what you're doing, that's a lot.
And this year was a model year, so for us, those are bigger volume years for us. When 15 was a whole new body style. Mm-hmm. So 2,000, 2,500. Thereabouts.
So 670 horsepower for almost 70 grand.
Mm-hmm.
What's a Hellcat go for?
It just raised the price up to 72
75?
or something around there.
So you're getting essentially a custom car for less than the price of a Hellcat.
Yeah, and we pride ourselves on not negative selling at Roush, but if you think of power to weight ratio, because of the chassis weight of this car and the 670. You'd have to be in the 800s to have the same power to weight ratio with a Hellcat. It's a heavier chassis.
Right.
But it's still a good car. Mm-hmm. There's no doubt about it.
No, it's a whale of a good car.
Absolutely.
But I can't wait to try to drive one of these days.
Hey, anytime you want to come down.
Okay, you're on. I'm definitely going to take you up on that.
It's a lot of fun.
So how much is stock versus how much do you guys add to the vehicle?
So we take off the wheels and tires, we take off the exhaust and put our own exhaust on there.
You make your own exhaust?
We do, yes. We actually do in Building 28. There you go with the buildings again. We're 79 in case. So if you get lost in Livonia, you just say, I'm looking for Building 79, and they'll say, oh, 3955 Schoolcraft. We don't change anything that would involve having to recrash the vehicle, so that's a good rule of thumb. But we do have to do things like FMVSS, so we have to curb test and do all the testing on for the wheels and tire packages.
None of those things affect like the side airbags or anything like that?
In fact, we even have a seat calibration tool like you would see at an OEM seat company to make sure that when we change the leather on the seats, that the sensors will still work for the airbags in the car. So there's other things that we do. We really pattern our manufacturing after original equipment manufacturers. And that kind of shouldn't come as a shock because our history and Ford's history is tied pretty tight. We go back 40 years as a vendor to Ford, right?
I can attest to that because last year, I think it was, I went to your clean tech operations, which does propane conversions, and I was knocked out at the process of putting that all together. It was so much like an OEM. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was exactly like an OEM, very sticklers for details where you could trace anything that was going on in the vehicle.
We talk about having repeatability, reproducibility, and traceability in all of our operations, right? So that same template that you saw at CleanTech, if you walked into Roush Performance today, you'd see the same type of system. So operator scans a badge, does the operation, scans the workpiece, checks the workpiece, scans out again, it goes to the next station.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So give our viewers a sense of the scope of the activities that Roush does. I mean, you're talking about Roush Performance, but I mean, there's a multitude of things that you guys do.
Yeah, so the tough thing about talking about what we do at Roush is we can't talk about a lot of it. But if you think about just what we've talked about in the last year, I mean, we've worked on the Google car, and we had that thing going at Building 50 for quite some time. Couldn't talk about it, right, until they did. We just did the Domino's truck. We're doing the Dagger program, which is a military off-road vehicle. We're in aerospace. We do simulators. We're doing a lot of growth this year in entertainment. So think about ride systems, right? What do I need? I need to move something that's pretty heavy and made out of metal and composites from point A to point B, and I need to keep people safe. Kind of sounds a lot like a car, right? So we do quite a bit in the entertainment industry.
You're talking amusement parks.
Amusement parks, right on, yes.
Wow.
And that's been a big piece of growth for us. Then we've got our products companies with clean tech, so that's alt fuels. So we're doing propane-powered school buses and paratransit vehicles and private fleet vehicles. We've got Roush Performance, which is really the most probably recognized piece of the business because we can talk about it. So we're doing Mustangs, F-150s, aftermarket parts. And then we've got our services business, which is really the biggest piece. So we're working with all the major OEMs, all the major transplants. We're doing calibrations. We're doing engine dyno certification. We're doing composite work. And then we got this little outfit called Roush Fenway too. So it boggles the mind, right? When you start looking at the full scope, the full supply, scope of supply that we have.
How many people work at Roush?
Right now we're close to 5,000.
Wow.
And we are global. So we've got people working in Europe, we've got people in Asia. And again, partially by design, we're one of the best kept secrets in southeastern Michigan and definitely in the world.
So how did the guys from Google come to you? I mean, if you can talk about that. I mean,
So I wasn't really involved in it, but I know that our VP of business development, Dean Massib, had a contact, and it was one of those situations where they were looking to work on an autonomous vehicle, and I think one thing just led to another. It's pretty obvious when you walk into one of our facilities how much capability is there, and just the bones of the company are so good, right? So if you can get the customer to make the flight out or get them into a seat,
Sales done.
Well, it's never really, it's just a little bit easier, right? But just like anybody else, I mean, you're out looking for opportunities, you're knocking on doors.
But it just seems to me we have this 670 horsepower car here, and the Google car probably has like 67. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, so it's night and day almost.
But think about it, it's the same concept, right? And when Silicon Valley wanted to start building cars, they came here. They came to southeastern Michigan and to Detroit, right? And the reason we had an advantage in this play is because of the ability to do multiple things for them. If they wanted to use a certain type of material for a body type, we had that capability in-house. And the nice thing about not only having it vertically integrated, you also control the messaging. I only have to have 10 or 15 people keep their mouth shut for a couple years, as opposed to maybe, a bunch of different people at different suppliers, and now I'm talking to 5 different companies, and I've got 5 different NDAs, and on it goes. So that becomes pretty attractive.
And that's a great point, because it was amazing that the Google car was kept secret.
I mentioned it in a meeting at CleanTech, and an engineer almost choked me out. and it was just an off-the-cuff thing, and nobody else was in the building. He just it was pretty brutal.
Wow.
Well, hey, let's get to the stage 3.
Yeah, that's really the star.
We've got Justin Schroeder, the chief engineer on the car. And is Justin mic'd?
Yes.
Okay, Justin, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having us.
So explain a little bit of the demonstration that you're going to give us here and what it's all about, and then let's hear it.
Okay, so Don set the stage for what the Stage 3 Mustang is with 670 horse. A piece of technology that we added that's unique to the market is our active exhaust. So there are plenty of manufacturers out there that use the same valves we do, and they have a track setting, which we have, which is wide open, which is loud. We have a sport setting, which is legal but more aggressive and a higher idle presence. We also have a touring setting, which is as quiet as it can be. It's still louder than stock, but it's not going to wake anybody up in the mornings. And what's unique about this active exhaust for us is this custom setting. So when you're in this custom setting, that is a setting that you set up yourself if you want to with your iPhone or your iPad. And you're able to customize these valves and how they work based on how you want it to be. So we have a iPad app that you can download from the iStore for free. This is what the app looks like. It'll work on your iPhone or your iPad. I happen to have an iPad mini. And just the layout is there's a dB meter up in the upper left, so you can share how loud your exhaust is with your friends or compare it to somebody else's. There's a picture of what the valve setting is. In this case, it's 14%, and when I go to wide open throttle, it goes to open. And that's based on this custom setting and this map that we have up here. So we're able to go around and look at this 3D map. You can look at it in a table view. Where it's red, that means it's open, and where it's blue, that means it's closed. So you might not be able to see this little periscope, but as I floor it, it moves up here into the red, and as I back off, it goes back down and everywhere in between. If I go back to another setting on the switch, this is touring, and this is closed all the time. This is the track setting where it's red all the time, and it's wide open. So that's an off-road. It's not legal for road use. We won't tell anybody. What's the neat part about this is the custom tune. So if you want to do a custom tune, we give you some things to start with. You can start from a blank one, a quiet one, or one that's already in here. This one happens to be our sport tune. If you look at this, it's at idle underneath 20 miles per hour. The valve's going to be open. So cruising around in your neighborhood at low speed, regardless of the throttle, it's always open. So when you come off the highway and you let off the gas, it goes open and gives that blur about the back. But as you drive around up here at half throttle, a quarter of a throttle, it's closed. So you're at 70 mile an hour, you have no drone, you can listen to the radio, you can take your phone call over Ford Sync. As you accelerate, it again goes back open so you can hear that presence. The neat part about this is that you can edit this view. So if I want to edit it, some new tools pop up down here. And so I can say I want to increase and I want to do a fuzzy, and I can just draw in where I want it to be quiet or where I want it to be noisy. So I can make it all red down here, I can make it red over here, I can change it over here, and then I can save that and download it back into the module in the car. And so when I disconnect this iPad and I turn this off and I turn off my phone, the custom settings now got my calibration in for the exhaust. And that's just unique to the market.
This is way cool. Okay, so we've got to hear what the sound's like. But because we're in an enclosed studio, we can't do it too long or we're all going to be dead by the end of this thing. We'll be asphyxiated.
So I've got a deal that I get a couple of seconds, right?
Okay, go ahead, Justin.
What are we on? What are we listening to here?
So this is the quiet. This is as quiet as it gets. This is loud. There's quiet again, and then there's back to loud. So outside, if I could rev this up, you'd really hear the difference. But even at idle, that's quiet, and that's loud. And you can see the valves open and close based on that setting. Now, if I shut it off and she still leaves it on the valves, I'll put it on the custom setting, and as I accelerate, you can see the valve open and close.
That is so cool.
How does it update from your iPad to the car? What are you plugged into the OBD2 port, or?
Yeah, we include a little Wi-Fi dongle.
Okay.
And then when you're done tuning, you just put it away and put it in your glove box, and you don't need it anymore.
That is so.
This comes with the car in a Roush box, of course.
And it's on sale right now?
This comes as an option on all our RS1s, RS2s, and RS3s, and that's also available on Roush Performance as a retail part. And you can install that on any 15 or 16 Mustangs. And then the plan is to launch this with our new 15, 16, 150, and then it'll go backwards to our 11 to 14 Raptors and Mustangs.
Okay, as an option, what does it cost? And as a retail standalone, what's it cost?
As part of the package here, the quad tip dual exhaust is standard. The option's about $1,800. And then as a retail kit, it's somewhere around $3,000.
That's pretty wild. I haven't seen it.
I've never seen anything like that a customer can do.
There's nothing else like it in the market. Everybody's got the valve, but nobody's got the tunability and letting you put the customer in the car to have it sound the way they want it.
And this isn't about creating fake sounds. This is
No, it's
real
real sound.
It's
Yeah,
real
I mean, that
sound.
was,
Yeah.
I mean, because there's a lot of,
physically happening there when you do it.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
And Justin, what about us Android users?
Yeah, Justin.
So far, we've had a couple of people ask for that. We're looking at adding that in. I have no time frame for that.
Okay.
It might be as part of the Stage 3 car. Our demographic, most people have iPhones or iPads. If you look at the market, it's actually probably cheaper for us to throw an iPad mini in the car than it is for me to go do an Android app. So I'd rather just give you an Apple product.
Gotcha. Hey,
so what is the take rate for this capability?
What was it, 86%?
So a year ago when we launched this, our internal sales and our market survey said 10% of people are going to take it. It's very expensive. Now we're up over 80%
Wow.
of all Stage 3 buyers.
man.
But if you think
It's been a
about
great
it,
product.
It's three exhausts plus an infinite amount of combinations in one, right? So if you go into the aftermarket exhaust pricing, you say, wow, that's a little steep. But if you think about having to buy 3 different ones and then going into your garage and hoisting it up and changing them out physically so I can have it in track mode, you don't have to do that. You just hit a switch, right? So there's a lot of value there.
Yeah, but
And
you have
lot
a
of
nice.
innovation.
My wife is in the car mode, and then you have a.
Well, right. Think
know.
about it, right?
Correct.
It scales with your lifestyle changes. If you want it, you're 25 and you have it on track mode all the time, and then you have your first kid, you go ahead and you keep it in touring mode all the time, and then you have your midlife crisis and you go back to track mode. We had a buddy of mine had a Roush Raptor, and when he had his first kid, he had to sell it because he could never quiet the exhaust down.
So as we move forward, we'll add some extras to the app. So you take a phone call, it'll go quiet. You can geofence it to your neighborhood or work so it can go quiet or loud based on your location. You can set it up for a time base from 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. in the morning. I want it to be quiet. Or you can geofence the police station or whatever else you'd like to do.
But quiet is a relative term for this car. I mean, this car is still, I mean, with that
still-
V8 under
yeah.
the hood,
It still has a nice, even the touring mode is a very nice throaty tone. It sounds good.
yeah.
Is the exhaust? I mean, is it if a blind person were to hear this car go by, are they going to go, "That's a Mustang GT"?
You'll still hear it's a Mustang,
can tell.
and you'll probably know it's a Roush.
No, you know, it's a Roush Mustang, not a Mustang.
It's definitely still got the V8. If you put this onto the i4, it does have a distinct sound. It's still a turbo car. You still recognize it as a Mustang, but it does have more presence.
Cool. Look, we've got more to talk about on this car, but we've got to take a short commercial break here because we want to give a shout out to our friends at Bridgestone. Okay, we're back. And we do have a number of questions that have come in here. So let's rip through some of these, and I know you guys will have some more too. But Steve wants to know, what's the most popular Roush performance add-on?
What do you think, Justin?
From a retail kit, we've had good success both with the Supercharger retail. So a retail customer buyer can buy our Supercharger kit. It's 50 state legal for 15. It's Brown state only for 16. And you can have 670 horsepower and without buying a Roush Mustang. That's been very popular for that. The other part of this Roush Mustang that falls out of the vehicle program is all these body parts. So these side scoops and window scoops and hood scoops and the front fascias have all been selling very well as an aftermarket install.
That's cool, yeah, because, just sitting here looking at the car, I've been starting to pick up on little pieces that have been arrow pieces that at first glance I didn't notice.
Yep, and those are all Roush pieces that we've done in-house or we sourced ourselves, and we did all the design, and they're available as retail as painted parts, and they'll install on any 15 or 16 Mustang.
Okay, Armin wants to know, does the dealer that does the maintenance on Roush vehicles, or does the dealer do the maintenance on Roush vehicles, and if so, do the techs have to go through special training?
Yes and yes. So the Roush dealer, Ford dealer, handles all maintenance. We will also, if a customer comes into town and wants to stop by and has something for us to look at, we have a fully functioning garage and techs on site. We also offer phone support and customer service that way. But we do have to do some training for our dealership folks, the technicians, for both installation and service.
And you said you warranty everything on this.
Powertrain. you said.
Powertrain. How long is
Anything
your
we
warranty?
touch-
3 year, 36,000.
Yeah. Anything we touch, we have the warranty.
Anything
on.
we
So
own,
the
yeah.
suspension, the brakes, the wheels, the tires, the powertrain.
And there's 2 different levels of training really, because the parts dealership can actually do the install of the supercharger at the Ford dealer. So that takes a little more training than just somebody doing service.
Okay, let's see here. Mike Ma wants to know, any thoughts for Roush Performance to move beyond just Mustangs, F-150s, or even GM products?
So the Roush branded products will always be Ford products. We have another brand that we purchased a couple years ago called SLP, Street Legal Performance. So we do have a full range of aftermarket parts for Camaros and other GM vehicles, GM trucks. We're actively developing supercharger technology and things like that for GM today, but it won't come out as a Roush branded
Roush is only
product.
Ford.
Roush is Ford.
But you do
100%.
F-150s.
But we do F-150s, and we're looking, so Justin and I, our role is to start looking at the landscape and say, okay, would somebody that has a Ford Explorer Sport be interested in a cold air kit, right? It may not be a vehicle program. This is a full-fledged vehicle program, right? It may just be a parts program, but we're always looking at new products that are coming out, new vehicle platforms to see if they fit our...
Is the F-150 a vehicle program,
It
or
is.
is that so?
Yes.
It's
So we have the 15 just finished for us, and the 16's just starting. And by February, we'll have a supercharger on that. So right now, it's a body kit and wheels and tires and suspension. It's a great looking truck.
That's on the V8.
And yeah, and it also has.
It's on the turbos as well.
You can do it on the turbo for the body. The supercharger will be on the V8.
Okay.
Correct.
Do you do anything to the V6 EcoBoost?
Today we don't on the. Do we offer a cold air kit for
We
the
have
F-150
a cold air
yet?
kit and exhaust,
Yeah.
which is worth some power, and then we'll be doing a power pack, which is a new reflash as a retail play for that. So you get a little extra power, and then the suspension lift and the body kit graphics that Don was talking about is already offered on the truck.
so what would that be called? The Roush F-150, or I mean,
So we kicked around trying to come up with some names for that, and even though I'm a marketing guy, I'm not the most creative guy at times, and we really couldn't come up, a lot of times we come up with numbers, and you lock yourself in when you do that, so we're just calling it a Roush F-150, keeping it simple.
So we are showing the Roush F-150 at SEMA. We've already got orders open. We'll show the supercharger while we're there, and that'll be 600 horsepower and the 5-liter supercharged.
Okay, Right Knight wants to know if you guys are going to modify the GT350's Voodoo V8 anytime in the near future.
I think that's a no, correct?
I think that's no.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to tell us you can't talk about future product, but we actually got the answer.
Ooh.
And let's see, Maverick wants to know, what's the MSRP of the base donor car?
Varies based on what the build from is. So you don't have to order the performance pack. You don't have to order the Highline. You just have to get one with a 400A package. So
But it would have to be a Mustang GT.
it can be a Mustang JT base. It doesn't
About
have to be a premium.
32.5 or so?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
It can be a turbo car as well for the RS1, or it could be a V6 car for the RS.
So if you're doing a stage 3, it's got to start out as a GT, and yeah, that's the mid-30s, low 40s.
Okay, so you got to have a website, right, where
Yes.
people can go to.
Our package is about $22,000 for a stage 3 on top of whatever the base Mustang is.
Gotcha. So your website is?
So it's www.roushperformance.com.
Okay.
And then there's a link to a microsite for active exhaust on there as well that just focuses on active exhaust. And that's
Way
active
cool.
exhaust
How much
at Roush
stuff do
Performance.
you allowed to do for the do-it-yourselfer? I mean, is that
basically
what do you guys encourage that, or do you want people to go to the dealer?
Yeah, anything that we sell retail, we provide instructions and templates, and you can do it right in your garage if you want.
So the only thing that's held back from the retail customers, the things that make it unique to a stage 3 Mustang. So some of the badging, the rear blackout panels, some of the serialized badging under the hood, the stage 3 that you see up on the fender, the Roush badge, those are the only things held back. Everything else, the supercharger, the half shafts, the active exhaust, the fascias, all the body kits, they're all available.
so is this available through the website, or is it just at the Roush certified Ford dealers?
So we have 3 main channels. We sell through Ford dealers, so vehicles only through Ford dealers. parts through Ford dealers. We also sell through like American Muscle, Turn 5, so the bigger warehouse distributors or online parts presence folks. And then we actually do sell direct to consumer from Roush Performance via the web. Again, we don't push anybody in any direction. We like to have our channel partners to be healthy. They do a great job retailing our stuff. So but you can pretty much get them. And we do even have an eBay store, believe it or not, for some of the stuff.
That's great.
So.
Well, hey, look, I want to thank you guys for not only showing up here, but bringing the car with you.
Thank you.
It was our pleasure.
Yeah, it's
Really cool, and I love that app. That is really something special, and to me, it captures, you know, the essence of what performance has always been about, but moving into the digital age.
That's right.
Yep.
So thanes again, guys. Really cool having you here.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
You guys can leave it here, right?
You know what? That's our ride. So
Yeah.
you got something to trade. We got to get back to Plymouth. We still got work to do.
Yeah. Well, look, we're going to take another quick break here. I think we're going to give a shout out to our friends at Henkel, but we'll be back in just a moment.
A little chemistry goes a long way, especially when it comes to vehicle development. From enabling the use of alternate materials to withstanding extreme vehicle environments, Henkel's adhesives, sealants, and surface technologies provide solutions for every vehicle segment. Come see for yourself. Our Detroit area headquarters offers 12 research and development and testing laboratories with the ability to do full-range testing and validation on actual vehicle parts. Sign up to tour our labs at henkelna.com/tour.
So we're back here, but that is cool. And I've never driven a Roush Mustang before, so I'm dying to get a chance to drive one of these vehicles.
It's crazy that I used to have a 2004 Cobra, and to think that, you know, back then, that was 390 horsepower, 390 pound-feet of torque. Well, that was $40,000 at the time in 2004. So that's, to think about, you know, how much more power they have now, and still consider it's still legal. It's crazy.
And I was surprised at the price, $69,000 he's saying for this.
I thought he was going to
That's
say
a
something like
steal.
I was just in a Ford GT that was 44, you know, just a conventional.
Without all this
Without
stuff.
all that stuff. So man,
I thought he was
that's
going to say like 90 or something.
Yeah.
like a hell of a
right.
deal. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Dr. Data, let's change topics
All right,
here.
all right.
Have you got a number for us?
We've got a number. So, you know, everybody's excited about the Star Wars trailer that came out this week, you know, for the Force Awakens. But some of us are looking forward to the new James Bond movie. So Ben, if you could bring up the number 10 for us, please. Okay, so shaken not stirred like the martini. So number 10. So the new vehicle in the new James Bond movie, Spectre, will be the DB10. And there's a picture of the car that will be in the James Bond movie. Now, they took that car to the Aston Martin Works on October 17th. Now, there's another 10 that's associated with this, and that is the fact that the number of DB10s that will be produced will be
the number 10.
the number 10. There will be 10 of these cars produced.
And they will probably wreck all of them.
Well, no. This is for civilians and for people who can actually get this car. Well, there's another number that came out of this, and it was sort of interesting, and it's sort of ironic in a way, that so 2 days before the DB10 went to the Aston Martin Works, the number 15 came up. And it just so happens that the number 15 is the percentage of workers that they announced they would be cutting from the Aston Martin plant. So as we can see, and this is the clever, it's been shot, the blood coming down. Perfect. See?
I'm glad you pointed that out. I didn't pick up on the blood.
So yes, for all of the people who see James Bond movies, we know that that's the rifling of the gun, and that's the blood coming down. Now, I also checked, because, you know, we all love James Bond movies and cars and James Bond movies. So if we take Spectre out, which isn't in theaters yet, there was actually 10 James Bond movies that had Aston Martins in them, which I thought was a bizarre coincidence. So
It's a decimal universe.
And you know, when you think about it, the most famous Aston of all in James Bond movies is a DB5. So that's our number.
Multiple thereof.
There are multiple thereof. So that's our number of the week.
All right. Now I feel so much more up to speed on
Like
the latest
Sesame Street,
James
brought to you
Bond.
by the number 10.
That's right. Indeed.
So lots of other stuff going on this week. Gary, you had something about, let's talk Volkswagen, because that story,
It just
it just keeps going, right. So, but you were saying the Germans don't care? What was your note on that?
Yeah, so basically there was a German research company that did research in Germany and asked the Germans how they felt about this. And it was pretty surprising that the number of Germans that talked to this company, let me find it here for a moment, 65% of German citizens interviewed by this company called Profit, 65% think that Volkswagen still builds excellent cars, and 74% of those interviewed can imagine that you'll buy another VW car if you're satisfied with it, and a whopping 91% think that Volkswagen was just the first, and there are other German companies that have this. So 60% don't think there'll be any damage to Volkswagen brand. These are Germans, mind you.
Yeah.
But,
Well, okay, that's lovely, but we don't know what the fix is going to be yet for the vehicles without urea treatment systems. So, if they either have to add some sort of hardware to these vehicles, that could affect these, the performance and drivability. So I think they're going to have to redo that and be like, okay, well, after you know what the fix is going to be for your car,
Good point.
Are you still happy with it? Adding.
but still, isn't it sort of astonishing that 65% think that they, Germans think, oh, Volkswagen makes great cars.
Yeah.
After the emission.
I mean, is it really? I mean, we heard all the things about, how Apple, has, I don't know, children or whatever building their iPhones and slave shops in China. People still will buy another one. They don't care. It's kind of the same. It's sort of the same thing. It's a little national pride kind of thing.
But don't you think this is going to hurt VW sales? I do.
They already said, you're already seeing incentives have doubled on the ones here. Mm-hmm. But, the problem too is that there's so many Volkswagen brands in Europe that it could really have a wide-reaching effect if
That also use these
that
engines.
also use them. So
Hey, what do you guys make of this talk that, now reports out of Europe are saying this is going to cost Volkswagen at least $36 billion and counting. And there's these reports that Volkswagen's going to have to start selling off brands and start cutting the number of models that it offers.
Well, okay, so let's just think about that for a minute. Okay, so the brands that they would need to sell off probably would be the premier brands, right? But not Porsche.
Not Porsche. No, that makes way too much profit.
Right, and so, and this is what it comes down to, is that if you look at the profitability of these companies, they're not that great. I was looking, Lamborghini had a 10% profit margin, but they didn't sell that many cars.
Right.
So how is that valuable to another automaker? I just don't see how they're going to be able to recoup
and
that
the
cost.
other problem is that a lot of these brands they're intertwined so deeply with, a Bentley borrows so many Volkswagen and Audi parts that to disconnect it'd be really difficult because you're still going to have whoever would buy a brand like that or any of these brands because they're so inbred that you'd still be on the having to eat from Volkswagen's trough if you were
Right.
to buy it. So it's going to be really difficult to.
Well, if you saw
to
value
buy
in it, you'd do it anyway. Ford continued to sell engines to Jaguar for years and Land Rover, so that didn't stop Tata from buying them. So it could happen, and I don't even think they'd get a whole lot of money for, a Lamborghini, a Bugatti. I don't even know if they'd sell a Bentley, but the big savings comes from not having to invest in new product. Here's a company that's going to run out of cash in no time at all.
Well, the thing that they also had, though, was that they could take one platform and then spread it across so many brands. The scale and the volume that they had, they were able to recoup a lot of their costs very quickly because they were building Skodas and Volkswagens and Seats in Spain. They were able to recoup a lot of that cost so quickly. So it wasn't in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't that bad because they had so much volume.
I think in their premium brands, the Lamborghini and the Bugatti and whatnot. I mean, do they need to do any more investment? Really? I mean, they can ride that out for how long and keep selling those things? I mean, because the number is so small. So there are estimates that Volkswagen has 18.6 billion euro in cash right now. Now it may burn through all of that cash because there are. I mean, I've not seen this 35 billion
dollar number, right?
$1 billion or billion euro?
No, $1 billion.
Okay, so I've seen as high as 20 billion euro, which might be getting in that space. So I mean, I think the bigger thing is that I mean they've come out and they've said that we're going to have to delay programs, we're going to have to delay investment in R&D, we're going to have to delay a number of things,
which is pretty wild considering that just early, not even in the last 10, 12 months, they announced that they're going to shorten their life cycles to 5 years for vehicles because they realized that things like the Passat here in the U.S. can't go 7 years in this hyper-competitive mid-sized sedan segment. So there's things like that they could possibly have to backtrack on, which could hurt them even more.
But, okay, so if we see the non-reception of Volkswagen brand in the United States, I mean, because let's face it, they're what, 2.5% of the market in here, and then we saw that number where 65% of the Germans are saying, this is it's all good.
Oh, it's perfect.
Do you think that there is any possibility that they just might say, you know what, North America, we just can't play there?
They might, but I don't think that the government would maybe let them do that. There's a lot of invested here. Dealerships, they employ a lot of people for brand.
It would cost them at least $1 billion. I would
pull out.
Guess out of thin air.
And that doesn't mean they get to walk away from it. I mean, you look at how long like Daewoo had to supply parts and other things here for even after they left.
I mean, they'd still have all that stuff.
They'd still have all that, but it'd be very, very
They have
expensive.
this big warehouse in Chattanooga that they would be able to sell the parts out of. And, it's LEED certified, so it's it's environmentally correct.
I don't think that's.
You don't think they're gonna? They would pull up stakes?
No, their ego is a little up there to just give up.
So you don't think this?
No, I
made a decline in their ego in any?
No. I don't detect the humble.
Yeah, we haven't seen a whole lot of humility from Volkswagen out of this, have we?
No, not yet. So, and as we get to the bottom of it and figure out what really happened and how big the scope is of what this problem is, it's going to be. I hope it's life-changing for the brand because they need a good shakeup. But Jesus, this is a tough way to do it. It really is, and it's tragic just because of the amount of scrutiny it's going to bring across the whole industry globally. Everybody's going to be a skeptic now.
That's absolutely true. No, this hurts the entire industry, not just Volkswagen.
Okay, when you guys say it hurts the industry, now do you mean it hurts the industry that supplies diesel-powered cars, or it hurts the industry that has gasoline cars and electric cars and hybrid cars and everything else?
I mean, I don't think that there's anything exempt from, we've had too many things happen in the last 5 or 6 years, whether we want to talk about ignition switches or
Takata airbags or Toyota unintended acceleration.
There's too many things that are.
I mean, doesn't the Takata thing have bigger implications?
Yes.
Or
I think it does.
Ignition switch, what is over 160 people now have been identified as dying as a result of that?
So what I'm getting at is that it's a culmination of events.
So it's not just Volkswagen. I don't think we need to paint them with.
Yeah, but I think this is like a tipping point where now the public says, you can't trust those car companies. And the regulators, especially, the environmentalists, especially the consumer advocates, go, so you can't trust these guys at all.
That's they appealed to a certain group of people who are passionate about, green products and clean this and that. They sold them on this. And then they blatantly lied to their face. I mean, that there's nothing.
They being Volkswagen in terms of this diesel thing. So all the people who are buying those clean diesels because they. I think that their problem is the fact that those people they just punched them in the heart. They just.
Wham. Right.
And now they're going to say, you know what,
But that's where I think they're going to say, I'm never touching a Volkswagen. Not, I'm never touching a diesel Volkswagen. No, it's, I'm never going to buy
and this is why I wonder, I mean,
and maybe an Audi, too.
I think it might be too early to say that because we just don't know what the fix is going to be yet.
True.
I mean, but if it comes down to, I mean, they may not be able to fix these things.
Well, as you talked about, what was it, about 3 weeks ago, you know, about how SCR had been an option and they decided they weren't going to go that route, and everybody else had gone that route. Now, Volkswagen has admitted that they're not going to do a car or not going to do a diesel without SCR anymore. So they're going to be playing the same way everybody else is.
The A4 was never able to it was never actually able to fit an AdBlue tank in it. That's why they never had a diesel A4 here. You know, it would have been perfect. But why didn't they, if they had this defeat device that was able to, you know, make them legal in a dyno, why couldn't they bring the A4 here with the 2-liter? And I don't understand why. Okay, they always said that we can't bring it here because it doesn't have. We can't.
So you're saying that they should have brought it here with a defeat device?
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't do that.
Well,
they only had the A3.
That's probably fine that they didn't do that.
No, I'm sure it is.
I'm puzzled by your reasoning here.
I love this. Dave is the only one I've ever heard that questions, why didn't they cheat more?
Yeah, it's just like, what the hell's a few more engines?
It's a great strategy to boost CAFE and people that, you know, you're taking a premium vehicle with people want to pay a premium for the engine. It's perfect, but I just kind of wonder why didn't they do it more?
See, but here's the thing that I wonder about, and you know, this question about Volkswagen. So last week when they made the announcement that, you know, they're going to have an electric Phaeton, that'll be their new flagship, and then they're going to be concentrating on plug-in hybrids going forward. This will be their strategy, and I just wonder, okay, are there going to be like a whole lot of people who would be inclined to say buy a hybrid Golf or a hybrid Passat or Jetta or what have you? Are they going to say, you know what? I don't know about those guys. I think I'll go buy the Toyota. You know what I mean?
I think that's what's going to happen.
And you know what? A couple months ago, I was thinking, wow, this is a terrible time for the Prius to come out. Fuel prices low, but people that are, you know, 20% of people that were buying a Volkswagen diesel, it might be a great time to go look at that Prius with that fancy rear suspension now.
Right, but I mean, I just wonder if it gets to this point, is that they hurt themselves with that section of their customer base that says,
how I see it. We'll have to see what pans out. But we also have to take another quick commercial break here. We've got other things that we want to get into as well. So let's give a shout out to our friends at Dodge.
We don't have to worry about predators like our ancestors did. No saber-toothed tigers stalking from the brush. No dire wolves circling the camp. There are no more monsters to fear. And so we have to build our own.
Okay, the other big news I think that hit this week is Consumer Reports saying this great car that we've lauded more than any other car in our history, the Model S, guess what? We're not recommending it. What do you guys make?
Okay, but there are two separate things they're testing on. Okay, so they're testing on performance and then they're testing on reliability. So these are two separate categories.
But the public doesn't. They don't know. You've picked up on that, Gary. Nobody else has picked up on that.
That's why people should watch the show.
That's right.
Because they can come here and we will find these things out and we will discern through that. But I'll tell you, I thought, I mean, the headlines from the study overall seemed like, oh, infotainment is such a horrible thing, and if people only changed, you know, they'll be all right. I looked at the list of their top 20 non-recommended vehicles, okay? And the thing that I came away with was I was just absolutely shocked at powertrain in general and other problems. Okay, so I will not say which cars that they are, but I'll read you these problems. Battery failed, engine replaced, front tie rod broke, transmission reprogrammed or replaced, fuel pump failure, transmission replaced, transmission needed reprogramming, sometimes more than once, or replacement. Oil leak, sunroof leak, diesel exhaust fluid pump or gauge malfunction, leaks in air suspension, Rough or delayed transmission shifts, squeaks and rattles, transmission replaced, rear seat heaters failed, loose trim and molding, pistons or rods replaced, clutch replacement, transmission replacement, power steering failed, wiper motor quit, transmission stuck in gear, transmission replaced, coolant leak, defective alternator, cooling fan failure, water in trunk, alternator replaced, transmission replaced, water leak from roof rail, cylinder head replacement, gearboxes reprogrammed or replaced, transmission replaced, wiper motor faulty.
Lots of problems.
Power steering failure. And these are all fundamental things that I think a person should expect when they buy a car that, they don't.
Should not go wrong.
They should not go wrong. And so and they all had these infotainment problems, screens froze, screens didn't work, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I get that. Okay.
Yeah, but if the transmission goes, you're not going home.
All right. I mean, shouldn't we be? And this is top 20 cars right across the board. I mean, you're finding these sorts of things. Now, I mean, it's very easy to say, they'll get those bugs fixed out, or they're gonna, they'll get an over-the-air update and fix the thing. But aren't we seeing a situation here where there are fundamental problems that ought to be taken care of by these vehicle manufacturers that? Across the board, I mean, it's not one company or another.
There's human beings making these things. Errors happen. I mean, it's just that's what you're looking at.
Right. But is it acceptable error?
No, it's not acceptable. I mean, if you buy a new car every 10, 15 years and something like this happens to you, of course you're going to be very upset, but it's not acceptable. But
so what if you buy a car every 3 years? Is this okay?
No, it's still not okay. But what I'm getting at is that you got to look at it from a statistical point of view, that you're making 300,000 whatevers a year. I don't pick one of those names out of there. And
I'll let you pick one.
Yeah. No, I'm not picking any.
But even so, yeah, your point is...
my point is, if you get a handful, you're still looking at like a success. So you might have a couple of PO'd customers, but in the end, you're actually pretty happy. Statistically, you're okay.
Statistically, I think you're screwed, because if somebody goes out and buys their copy of Consumer Reports magazine and says that if I buy brand X, I'm going to have...
What vehicle are you going to find that doesn't have anything wrong with it?
Well, but there are the ones that they recommend, so it's not like they're not...
Right, I understand that, but there's no perfect vehicle.
Agreed.
Okay,
Agreed.
so...
But I think this is fundamental manufacturing. I think this is fundamental stuff.
But don't you think it's better than it used to be?
Possibly. I'm wondering if it's not better than it used to be, and that maybe that they're spending too much attention trying to fix the head units for the infotainment systems.
The transmission is puking its guts.
Yeah, and I'll tell you,
I was interesting though is that they talked about Tesla, but Tesla wasn't on their list in terms of all of the manufacturers.
Well, in terms of their, I mean, they did have a list of what they recommended and what they didn't recommend, and so
we didn't see the traditional Jaguar Land Rover on there either due to a shortage of responses.
Right.
But they have always been at the bottom of everything, right along with Jeep and some of the others. So, I wonder, is Tesla the equivalent of a Jaguar Land Rover, or are they? That's what I was kind of.
That's a good question. That's a great question.
Where they fall.
To me, I think this whole Tesla thing didn't hurt Tesla as much as it did hit Tesla. Their stock
hit their stock hard.
Their price dropped. Yeah, as soon as
within a minute.
Yeah, right. But I also think this hurts CR's credibility. And I know the distinction that you're making, Gary, is the way the car drove, they loved the reliability of the car. They say is not good. But when that article came out a few months ago praising the Tesla, it broke.
But it didn't talk about all the problems, and I think at that point in time,
but it did mention in the article that reliability was iffy.
Right, but I think they probably had an early indication of that. I'm sure they already had a lot of the responses back from their survey.
But you know what the public hears? The public earlier this summer hears, Tesla Model S, best car ever made. Those other idiots in the auto industry, they don't know anything. It's only the Silicon Valley guys who know how to do these great cars. And now what does the public hear? Hey, that Tesla, everything breaks on it.
Yeah, we don't recommend it, but
And that's
still
what
great.
the public hears. The public doesn't hear this nuance of one kind of testing versus another kind of testing.
No, they only know consumer reports and reliability or quality.
Right.
They don't hear. I mean, nobody used to go to consumer reports for road tests. They went to
Right. So
one
if
of
you
the
go,
Buffalo
so if you go to
shops.
Consumer Reports and you're going to buy yourself an electric or hybrid vehicle, because that's the category that they have both of, that they are going to, you're either going to buy a Prius or a Prius. Those are the only two vehicles that they recommend in that category. So I mean, that's what the recommendation comes down to for them. But I just think as a car buyer and spending my own money to buy cars, I mean, I would like to think that the industry would do a better job at some of these fundamentals. I mean, this strikes me as
Well,
being
remember, you're
blocking
reading
and
a
tackling.
list of the worst of the worst. I mean, I know lots of people who drive cars all the time, and it's not like their transmissions are crapping out or their engines
Right.
leaking or anything like that.
Yeah, and to your point too, there's other things that could be going on. Who knows? Maybe it was a slow week at the dealership. They got guys sitting around doing nothing. Oh yeah, customer, we heard that transmission problem. We'll replace it. I mean, who knows? It could have just been. You never know what's really going on. I mean, it could have said transmission failure. It may not. It may have just been, like I said, a slow week at the dealership. They needed some warranty money to pay the bills. You don't
Right,
know.
but again, I mean, but then if you think about it, I mean, so the yardstick's the same for everyone, right? Because you could be, so if you look at the recommended list, that's 7 out of 7 Lexuses. All of them are recommended. I mean, every car that they build are recommended, which seems to me to be some amazing phenomenon in terms of statistical things. But, there's slow days at the Lexus dealer too, right? So conceivably, well, let's replace the cylinder head on this LS.
Could be, but even Lexus, which has and I don't know the number in the latest survey, but if you look at the JD Power, it's typically in the 84 things gone wrong per 100 vehicle kind of thing.
Right.
So,
There's still
even
things going
the
wrong.
best,
Like I said,
the best
like I
has
said,
problems.
There's still things. They're not perfect. There's still things that go wrong. So that there's still a margin for error. You're just trying to minimize the margin of error.
Right.
So
I guess I'm the only. I guess I'm the only who's surprised. I don't know. You guys.
No. I mean, when you pump out millions of vehicles and all these parts and the complexity, and
thousands of parts.
It's
to me,
things are gonna go wrong.
the miracle is when at the end of the assembly line they actually start and you could drive them off the line. To me, that's even more impressive than that they don't start.
All right, let's move from them. You found out something this week that you guys reported, and I don't see it being picked up by anybody else, about General Motors and their supplier, LG Chem.
Right.
Tell us about this.
So GM earlier this month told the analyst community that its battery price was down to $145 per kilowatt hour. And I was stunned on two counts. Number one, $145.
Very cheap.
That's $100 per kilowatt hour cheaper than any number I've heard from anybody. Number two is, when have you ever in the history of your careers heard an OEM publicly announce what it's paying a supplier for a part? I've never heard that. And so a competitor battery supplier sent me an article translated from the original Korean that the media in Korea is reporting LG Chem is pissed off at General Motors for putting this number out there, because LG Chem dominates the EV battery market globally. And now it's saying all of our customers are going to come running to us saying, I want $145 per kilowatt hour.
Yeah.
So do you think that General Motors did this deliberately, told the analyst community to make them sound better, that they got a good deal? Or do you think that this was something that just slipped out? Or do you think that maybe that isn't even the right number?
No, I think GM bragged about the number. I think it got a great deal from LG. The question is LG, is this a loss leader? Are they really making money on it? Is it going to be 5 years from now that it will
what I had to
finally start
wonder,
pay?
What I had to wonder, they had that press release that came out earlier in the week or last week that said, LG is supplying
This week.
It was this week 12 or so different components.
They're making the electric motor. They're making
basically everything.
The whole
Every
package.
module, infotainment, heater. I mean, everything.
Right.
They're doing everything. So
Was it a package price?
Was it a package price that they said, we're going to get this price down, but we're going to give you all this other business. We'll give you this other business to make up for the shortcomings but in the meantime, we'll take the price down on the battery pack.
Right. Who knows?
Who knows?
They're not explaining.
But they got
that.
a whole lot of other business out of this that you don't see any other supplier with that amount of content in a vehicle. I mean, everything from infotainment to batteries to modules. I mean, it's everything.
Yeah, but I've never heard an OEM ever spill its guts on what it's paying for a component. So this was very deliberate, and they're telling the analyst community. I think this was kind of a shot at Elon Musk, too. Oh, you're going to go build this gigafactory and pour $5 billion into making this factory, and your price, what you announce, is going to be $125 per kilowatt hour in 2020. Well, guess what, guys? We're at 145 right now, and we're going to be at 100 in 2020, and we ain't got no stinking gigafactory. We're going to do it without that. I think that was part of the messaging.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty surprised. So I started chasing down to see what I could find on price of electric batteries and per kilowatt hour, and I found this report that came out in March that these two researchers at the Stockholm Environmental Institute did, looking at costs, and so they wrote a paper and it says, in conclusion, pending continued growth of BEV sales, battery electric vehicles, for a few years, it is indeed possible that economies of scale will continue to push down toward US $200 per kilowatt hour. Not $145, right. $200 per kilowatt hour in the near future, even without further cell chemistry improvements. However, these cost reductions depend on the successful implementation of these large-scale battery production facilities and on continued public support through, for example, economic incentive schemes in key BEV markets. Now, I think it did say something in that release about how this factory in Holland was supported by grants from the government.
Not Holland, the country we were talking about, Michigan.
Yes.
Holland, Michigan.
Just to clarify.
The LG,
Stockholm, Holland.
Yeah, the LG factory in Holland, Michigan.
So I wonder how much of that price is predicated on their getting incentives for their factory. We may be paying that.
To a degree. I mean, that was state money that was all spent several years ago. So it's not like we're still supporting it from that standpoint, although they probably still have tax abatements, so we would be paying it that way. But again, I just come back to, I think that's a big number for GM to talk about,
if that's
$145.
True, and they can really make the Bolt EV, as they're calling it, Bolt EV, 200-mile at least vehicle. I mean, that's range. Truly disruptive. I don't think Elon Musk has really been disruptive yet. But if they can come out with this vehicle and it costs, I'd say 30 to 40,000, and can go at least 200 miles, that will be the true disruptor, I think, to the EV market that everybody's been waiting for. You could you want to put any price of a Model X for $140,000, or a Model S that goes $100,000. You can, whatever. That's not disruptive.
That's not mainstream.
But if they can really make this happen, and if they can do something like that, I mean, you're coming close to like being able to make money on it if that's true.
Well, it sure gets a whole lot closer to it. Yeah, they still need the $7,500 federal tax credit in the U.S. to make those numbers work. But I think you're right. That could be a tipping point. But I did an interview with Chelsea Sexton, big EV advocate, earlier this year, and what she was saying was that if you go back even just 5 years ago, it was $1,000 per kilowatt hour. Boom, 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 boom. They've been chopping it down. She said about a year ago it was at about 280. She thought that the best were at about 250 right now, ish. So for GM to come out and say it's 145, it's like, yowza, that's a massive improvement.
Yeah. So maybe just LG Chem just wanted the business, and so
they bought it. Maybe. Yeah. Maybe they bought the business. I don't know.
Good. Well, anyway, you guys, probably a good place to wrap up today's show. Dave Sullivan, thanks for coming back from AutoPacific.
Thanks for having me.
Good to have you here. Always appreciate your insights.
Thanks for having me.
Good. And Gary, I'll even be back here next week.
Wow, nice seeing you again.
I know, it's fun. I love the show. I'm glad to be back. We're glad all of you have joined us, and please join us again next week.
Autoline After Hours is brought to you by Bridgestone Tires, your journey, our passion. Dodge. And by Henkel, excellence is our passion.
Visit our website, Autoline.tv, where you can watch us live. Get your daily news fix with Autoline Daily and in-depth analysis and interviews with Autoline This Week. There's all that and much more at Autoline.tv.